Hi, it's Jeff E.G. in my comfy chair, in various states of disarray. This nifty app is called Riffler. It's a guitar app for iOS. It's pretty cool, really. I'm a guitar player, but it can create riffs that I can't play. And if you're a keyboard player without those guitar skills, what a great tool, especially on iOS. Let me show you how it works. You're gonna love Riffler. Best of all, I have a giveaway to offer. At the end of the demo, I'll explain how to register for that giveaway and how you can get it into your hands. Riffler. When you first open it, it gives you this tab view that guitarists are familiar with. And one of the things that's cool is this random feature. So let's just start with that. You click on random and then play. Let's hit random again and play. So that's kind of gives you a quick idea of what this app does is create guitar riffs, which if you're a guitar player and you have a certain level of capability, you might record them yourself. But if you're a keyboard player or maybe an amateur guitar player and not that great at creating riffs, this tool comes in really handy. Off to the left, there's a control bar, I would say. You can choose these presets, which is pretty good. There's a pretty extensive group of presets by genre. You can control things like the tempo. You would expect that. I mean, if you want something really fast, you can increase the tempo. The length is basically the length of the riff. Is it going to be 4 bars long, or do you want something a bit longer, like 8? And the key. Maybe you want to do something in an unusual key, like G sharp, and you can play. That's a bit unusual, isn't it? The presets are great. I really enjoy them. So, you can look for the things that you're most comfortable with. Here's one with a delay. Play a bit of that so you can hear it. Let's take a look at some of the other features over here. The tuning, of course, is how you've tuned the guitar. It's a standard tuning with the E string. Or do you have a drop D or a different style of tuning? You can control that. The progression can be based on kind of known scales that are used, in rock, pop, blues, metal, and you can choose that scale here down below. If you want to play something in a Mixolydian mode, maybe it has an unusual sound, a revision of that, and play. You've got more options. The tone kind of reflects general sound that you might be after. What you want, some, a dry sound or tight distortion. What sustain options you want, like how many bends thing, or whether you want power chords. All of these features like vibrato. It goes on quite extensively. Whether you want to include triplets or not, it's kind of cool. In a complicated sound, and you can see there's options for where you want it ending at the 2nd bar or the 4th bar, how much you want it to duplicate notes. Every time you make revisions on the left, you hit create, hit play. You find something you like, you can click on save, and it can be saved to your favorites. Back up at the top in these presets, there's some funny experimental things down at the bottom. These ones, look at this, for time signature. Of course, it defaults to 4x4, but you can choose unusual presets like 12/8, and you'll get a really unusual rhythm. Increase the tempo of that, and it's going to be even more interesting. Neat. At the bottom of the preset list, I noticed there was some things you might even call experimental, like under challenges. I like this, and definitely not this. You know, there's a metal riff that you'd have a tough time playing on guitar, but this tool is going to create that for you. I think what's neat is that the author had not only a good grasp of guitar, but a bit of a sense of humor. So if you go down to other, you'll find some really weird little presets here. You could play them and just listen to them. It's a bit weird. I like this other, this one called Creepy. Increase the tempo a little bit. All right, so if you have favorites and you've saved some, just gonna click on my favorites. I only have 3 set up here. And I'm just gonna load this one I created a while ago. Let you hear it a bit. You get the idea. What's cool about these is you can export them a couple different ways. So if you click on the share button, you can export this as a WAV file and save it to your files. I've got a folder called Guitar Riffs. Just going to save it there. Or you can export it as a MIDI file. Now, when you export it as MIDI, you're kind of preparing to pull that into another DAW, which is the same as what you could do with a WAV file. But with MIDI, you may want to be changing the sound. There are a lot of options with this program. It's a lot more powerful than you first may realize. If you click on the settings, you'll see you can determine just how random the creation of a riff will be. There's quite a long list here, options that you can turn off or on that impact the randomness of it calculating a new riff. And you've got audio options, whether you want it to loop or not, and whether you want to enable the percussion. You hear on each one there's some basic drums, but you could have just a metronome or just a hi-hat riff. That's percussion type. And the tablature options that you see on the screen get controlled down there at the bottom. It's pretty good. You know, there's a lot more to it than you first realize. Going back to home, those are really the basics. I'm gonna just show you how to use those WAV files just quickly. Okay, if you're interested in Riffler, here's the key. Subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button, and also post a comment on this video so I know you're interested in the product. At the end of the month, I'll pick 2 lucky winners, notify you, and send you the promotion code. I'm just going to open GarageBand. GarageBand always loads the last song you had open, which is kind of annoying. So I'm going to go up here and create a new empty song and click on the plus sign. I need a kind of a blank audio file to pull in the sampled wave file that Riffler created. So I'm going to choose an instrument. It doesn't really matter which one because ultimately I'm not going to use the instrument. I'm going to use the wave file. Then I'm going to click on the loops section, choose files, and normally if the files were not in this list here already, you want to browse your files wherever you've stored. I'm changing this to a list view. It's a little bit easier for me to see. And I have created a folder on my iPad. There it is, samples. Here's the file I created earlier. This is a 110 beats per minute. And there it is. And I can just drag that into GarageBand, go back to the beginning. And sometimes you have to check the beats per minute to make sure that it's set to the right tempo. We're lucky here that the default tempo that came up was 110. So the metronome is in sync with that sample. If it isn't, you're just going to have to change the tempo to match the sample that's driving your song. You know, you can loop it, or let's see, loop the entire section, go back to the beginning. You could add, say, your own drums. I'm gonna go over to the drummer, choose smart drums. Instead of the hip hop machine, I'm gonna choose, let's see, the live rock kit. I'm gonna pull in the kick, snare, toms, like hi-hats, and then I'm going to record that So I got some drums. Obviously, it's standard GarageBand. You can add anything else that you want. Once you've got it in GarageBand, of course, you've got all the options of controlling the volume. You can, add effects if you want to add compressor, treble, bass, echo, reverb. You can do custom effects. A lot of people like to use the visual EQ. Kind of cool. And you can play around with your sample. Let's say you didn't want to use that WAV file, so I'm going to put that on mute, and I'm just going to pull in the MIDI file. I go to my loop browser, and I've already pulled it in. You can see here, I went through the same process of browsing, drag it into a new track, and on that track, that's funny, it created piano, add, say a guitar sound, and I'm going to choose the notes option for guitar, and then go back to the beginning. You can change the tempo when you got MIDI, which is a little bit harder to do with the audio because you have to time stretch it. But with the MIDI, you could change the sound. Just look at the guitar here. Instead of a clean guitar, I'm going to choose a, say, a roots rock guitar. Back to the beginning. You get the basic idea that with that MIDI, you have the flexibility of just taking the pattern, the riff from Riffler, and adding any guitar sound that you want to use. You can do this in BeatMaker 3 or Cubasis 3 or any of the other iOS music apps. I just did it in GarageBand because I know a lot of people have GarageBand and it's free. Riffler version 2 will be coming out soon, and it's a huge free update. The biggest improvement will be the AU v3 support, which means you can use it as a plugin, and that's a new and more efficient way to use it with other DAWs like GarageBand. It'll also include an amp simulator, a note editor, and a song mode, which should be great. I've been playing around with Riffler for a little while. It's pretty inexpensive to buy and download, and I'm not quite sure how it works, to be honest with you. It creates WAV files randomly. Is it from samples? Is it generating it on the fly? I'm not sure, but I like the results. When you get into guitar for iOS music production, you're into a realm that's maybe not so common. Most people are doing beats or hip hop type EDM music on an iOS device. Where does guitar fit into that? I personally love the sound of guitar, and I love being able to do other genres of music on my iPad. So I think this is great. It's not the only guitar app that I'm going to cover. I'm going to talk about Strummer FX by 4 Pockets. That's going to be my next little review. I hope you enjoy it. If this is the kind of content that makes sense to you and you're interested in it, click on the like button, maybe add a comment, and kindly subscribe to my channel to keep me going. It's very much appreciated.